And now back to Rad Radio.
Got this email, rad@radradio.com. It is from Sandy.
Hey, Sandy.
She heard that Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com and United Wholesale Lending would be on the show this morning and sent in a note that says, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Shelby and his team. I contacted him on January 25th looking to buy a condo or a townhouse for my daughter as an investment property. Shelby returned my call within 3 hours personally, worked on getting us approved and hooking us up with a real estate agent who promptly started looking in our desired locations. We put a bid in on a beautiful townhome. The process was very smooth, and everybody was so very nice and helpful. A big thank you to Shelby and his team. And that is the trick, right? You start not with the lender, you start with the real estate agent.
No, you start with the lender.
You start
first.
with the lender, not the real estate agent. I did that backwards because you're both.
Yeah.
Which is why you confuse me all the time. Because United Wholesale Lending, you do both. You've got a real estate agency. You are a lender, and so And why do you start with the lender first?
You start with the lender because we're the ones that craft the entire game plan. So a lot of time a consumer will contact the agent just because they want to see the home. The agent's going to get me in the house. That's all I want. But then a lot of the time, they're like, oh, my gosh, I love this home. What do I do next? And then it's too late. You can't craft the plan. I can't tell you, okay, this is where your comfort zone is. Does it make more sense to put 20% down? Or is the mortgage insurance so cheap that it'd be better for you to only put 10% down and keep $50,000 in your bank? So we come up with the entire strategy. A lot of the times people will call me back after and say, hey, we put down $100,000 when we bought our house. We sold one house, then I put $100,000 down on the next house, but I want to get some of that money back. I'm like, well, it's too late. You should have came to me up front, and then we could have crafted the plan and said, okay, we're only going to put 10% down. Here's what your payment looks like. Are you comfortable with that? And let's keep $50,000 in the bank. And, it's all about crafting the plan up front that works the best, balancing out what payment are you comfortable with, how much money do you want left over in the bank, do you want any money for repairs, where's your comfort zone at?
How real is that thing, that stereotype, it is attached more to women than to men, to where if you don't go in with that plan and instead you start looking at houses first, you fall in love with the house, and now we've got to find a way to get the house, and it can turn into this reverse problem of what you're talking about. We didn't have the plan in the beginning. Well, we love, or I love, or she loves this house. We need this house. And it can turn into really a financial borderline disaster. Is that real? Does that really exist?
It happens a lot. And that's why we do auctions, right? And in the Bay Area, they list properties different. In the Bay Area, they list them very low. And they let people get emotionally involved in the process of winning. And we even see that on reality TV shows, right? Like, I just want to win. I just want to win the show. And that's what happens is you go out there and then it's like, this is more of an emotional attachment. I have to get it. There's competition on this home, and the game plan goes right out the window. They have no game plan. They're just playing to win.
By the way, if you're watching us on Rad TV at members.radradio.com, coming up in about 20 minutes after we visit with Shelby, you will get the Dogwoods Resort Canine Cam.
Oh, the big little puppy.
What's coming up, Brando?
We've got a first video from Maggot Jason, who writes, there was a live spider trapped inside the instrument cluster of a customer's 95 Cadillac Alante. He paid a decent amount of money for us to remove him and the spider web he had built.
A spider on the canine cam?
What?
Yeah.
Is this a first? This is a first, isn't it?
I believe this is a first spider on the canine cam. Then we do have some other dogs and cats playing, but the highlight is the spider.
If you have any animals, insects, whales, whatever, horizontally record them and email us rad@radradio.com. All right, Shelby, I want to go back because a lot's happened over the course of just this year. January 31st, the Federal Reserve held its key interest rate steady and opened the door to rate cuts. In dumbass terms, this means what? This means what you're paying for your house. This means what your payments are going to be every month, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your interest rate is tied directly to your monthly payment.
So in December of last year, the Fed forecast 3/4 point cuts this year, more than anticipated, which you came on and you talked about and said, wow, this could be really good. This would be great for the housing market.
The moment that everyone's been waiting for.
And then a month later, mid-February, right after Valentine's Day, mortgage rates surged, with home buyers retreating from the housing market. The average mortgage rate for a 30-year fixed loan got up as high as 7.13%, with borrowing costs being stubbornly high, even as the economy remains robust. And then, just yesterday, after tumbling last fall, inflation has remained stubbornly elevated this year. And today, the central bank will almost certainly not reduce its key interest rate. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley expect the Fed to stick to its forecast of 3 rate cuts, but it'll be later in the year. Where are we here? Because you were at the beginning of the year, you were like, this is, they're going to cut. They're going to cut. So are they still going to cut, but later in the year, or what are you seeing going on right now?
Yeah, that's what they do forecast, is that we're still going to cut, but it's just the timing is not right. Traditionally, before any election, we've always cut interest rates. So, if we look back at the past, we can tell that, okay, they are going to cut rates. They've done it every single election year. And, I just think that we're looking more along the lines of like June. But,
that's perfect.
It is. It will be great timing. And, the higher that we can keep rates, it is better for the economy to keep them high right now. But I think that we're at that breaking point. And people are like, look, I really need rates to come down. We kept rates low for far too long. And that's what got us into this mess. They kept them low. They kept buying the mortgage-backed securities. The government was subsidizing everything. COVID hit. They kept them low. And everybody in the country has below a 3% rate. So it doesn't make people want to sell their homes when they have a 3% rate. So what that's doing is it's holding on to the supply. More times than we've ever seen before, homeowners are deciding to keep their property and rent it instead of sell it and buy another one. So what that does is it removes the inventory off. So if you're a home buyer looking to buy, everything is all supply and demand. Well, guess what? What we can forecast and what we can see is that more homeowners are now keeping those homes and buying another one. What that means is more people are owning homes. They're keeping them. They're owning more real estate, so it's keeping the supply very low, which is going to keep the prices very high. Another thing I tell a lot of people that call in, I say, okay, let's just think about this logically. If you had a 3% interest rate and you were going to buy a new house, your family was growing, you make good money, would you keep that house? Yeah, you probably would, because you're going to cash flow it, right? You still buy the next house. Well, what does that do to inventory? Now you think about the kids and the labor market and construction market. Now, are these kids growing up saying, I want to swing a hammer? No. They're saying, I want to go and be on TikTok and be a star.
Right.
They want to do the least amount of work.
Yes.
So what does that do? Are we building more homes? Is it hard in California to get building permits and things like, yeah, it's hard to build homes here. So our housing market is going to stay very strong, and there's no other investment like real estate. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that the market's going to go down? If interest rates go down, the market's going to go up. And on just an average appreciation of real estate, you're probably looking at like 5% per year, okay? The beauty about real estate is you don't make the 5% on what you put down on the home. So I'll give you a great example. Say you put $10,000 down on a home, okay? And that $500,000 home went up, let's say 10% in 1 year, just for simple terms. That is a $50,000 gain on $10,000. If you put the same $10,000 in the stock market, guess how much you make?
Not that much.
Nearly nothing. 5% of 10 grand
You gotta
is
wait.
nothing that you're writing home about.
Really long
But
time.
instead, in real estate, you earn it not on what you invested. You earn it on the entire purchase price of the home. So it's the best investment. And, I think that that's great advice for people, not only just to trust me, just look at the facts. What do you think is going to happen? Here's all the data, and that's what we analyze together. Here's the data. What do you think is going to happen when rates fall? I can tell you personally, I've pre-approved 200 people over the last 2 years, even probably 1 year, and it's always the same song and dance. Payment's too high. I'm going to wait for rates to fall. Well, what happens when rates fall? All those people come back into the market. I read an interesting stat the other day. It said every 1% that rates fall, 5 million new home buyers come back into the market.
Whoa.
It's crazy. And everybody's experienced that. We've seen it before now. We have enough past data to where you're writing in offers on homes and there's 10, 15, 20, 50 offers on a house. That's going to come back when rates fall. So,
but when rates fall, they're going to have more people. Like you said, 5 million people enter the market to buy housing. But if you just buy it where the rates are high and then you wait for them to drop, you could just refinance and get a lower payment, right? Or do you have to wait amount of time before you can even have that happen?
So traditionally, it's 120 days before you can refinance.
That's not bad. Okay.
So you wait 120 days, you can refinance and get the low rate. So you're right. That's the perfect example. Is right now the strategy is look at homes, analyze what the monthly payment is. You have to be comfortable with that payment right there because nobody does have a definite crystal ball and say, this is going to happen. This is when rates are going to fall. So you have to be careful and say, okay, I can afford this payment. Now, if and when rates fall, you refinance, you're going to get both the equity bump because real estate's it's not a controlled price. It's whatever people are willing to pay. So they bid these houses up, and that's how you see home prices go up so fast. To put some context on that, normal appreciation year, 5%. $500,000 home is going to go up, 5% of 500,000, right? Now, if we have an explosive year, you're looking at 20% growth. 10% of 500 is 50 grand. You can make $100,000, and that's why it feels like prices are getting out of touch. You're like, man, I can't believe how high prices are. Oh, God, yeah, because we had a couple of years where they went up 20%. That's insane. That's $100,000 higher in 1 year.
There's these cute little that I drive past in this one area. They remind me of being on the East Coast, like these little brick stones, but maybe they're just a smaller townhouse, but they're just so adorable. And like 5 years ago, I remember seeing signs for them like 300,000 or whatever. And now, oh my God. I happened to see that one was for sale, so I was curious. $500,000 to $600,000, and I'm like, oh my God.
It seems like it just flew by.
Is that even possible? Like in that amount of time?
Yeah.
That was insane to see that.
Yep.
I was like, and maybe some of them 5 years ago were at 400, but like you're not getting those now for 300 to 400. It's not happening.
Yeah.
At all. Like those days are gone. Those have passed. And I'm like, good for those people that got in on those.
Well, and what's crazy is that it's not like they're gone forever. Okay. It's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to do it again and again. I mean, think about our parents, right? They bought homes in the Bay Area for like 30, 40, 50 grand. And you're like, oh my gosh. And so you said the same thing. You're like, man, those days are gone. Shoot, should have bought a house then.
Yeah.
And then you looked at it in 2010 and you're like, oh my gosh. I was buying homes in West Sacramento for $90,000, and now they're worth $450 grand.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And so it's going to continue to rise. You look at these other countries. Okay, we have access to debt, which if the dollar weakens and we're not the world power, we won't have access to print money anymore. The whole game's going to change. Every other country in the entire world, they have to put 20% down to buy a house. It's a mass. Only the wealthy people own the homes. So, one thing that I tell my friends a lot, I'm like, guys, look, he who owns the most homes wins because this isn't going to last forever. That's where all the wealth is. We've seen there's more millionaires in real estate than anywhere else in the world.
I like how you said that, though, with like those particular homes that I would pass by. Those prices, they'll never be 300 to 400. But of course, that's why you're the expert. Like, oh my God, remember that feeling because there's that opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah.
Where you can get in on something and not let it pass you by.
Yeah.
Dawn is currently interviewing Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com and United Wholesale Lending. You can email us, rad@radradio.com. Phone number is 888-989-9811. If I can just sneak a couple quick little things in here.
No, really, you take over. You know way more than I do.
To the point you just made, Shelby, my dad still lives in the house that I grew up in. He built. They bought it in 1971 for $30,000. In the East Bay area. You just recently helped my dad and I out with getting some money out so he can do some repairs. And I forget exactly, but I think that thing appraised at $1.5 million.
Oh, yeah.
Crap.
This is an 1,800 square foot home in the East Bay area. Paid off and paid $30,000. Now, and also back to the point, you use the qualifier because I think you have to, and it's probably your gut. You said if and when rates go down. The truth of the matter is, I can say this definitively, rates will go down. I don't know when. You don't know when. Like you said, there's no crystal ball. I tell the story almost every time you're on because it's instructive. In 1992, I bought my first home at the age of 22. My interest rate was 7.25%. We have not gotten there yet. It was considered an extraordinarily low interest rate. People twice my age could not believe that I was getting a 7.25% interest rate, and now all of us are lighting our hair on fire over the fact that they're right around 7%. So these things will ebb, they will flow. The values, as you say, he who has the most houses wins in the end. Got a couple emails for you here, rad@radradio.com. First of all, what's a HELOC?
A HELOC is a home equity line of credit.
All right.
So what this allows you to do is this allows you to access the equity in your home without touching that 3% or that awesome interest rate that you have.
Michael says, if you get a HELOC, is there a time frame you have to wait before you can refi and put what you used of the HELOC in the loan?
So he's thinking, is there a time that you have to wait to potentially, well, there's two routes there. One, you can pay back your HELOC whenever you want and pay it off, and then you have no payment, and then you still have access to those funds if you want to reborrow. The other side of the home equity line is maybe you pull out $100,000, you use that $100,000, and then you say, well, shoot, I want to pay the HELOC off with my first mortgage. It's probably never going to be a good idea to do that because that first mortgage rate is at a 3% or lower. So you don't want to combine that because then now you have to take the prevailing interest rate. And even if rates fall, maybe they go down to 5%, it doesn't make sense for you to combine those two mortgages. So your goal is to schedule your payment to pay the HELOC off.
Michael's second question is, have you heard of HEA, home equity agreements? And if so, what are your thoughts on them?
I hear about them on Instagram. It's like it's not
right away. That's no
like
good.
It is. It's scammy. Like I would not do the home equity agreement.
Did you call it scammy?
It's scammy. They're trying to take your equity in your house. They know that it's a better deal. Like, hey, look, I'll give you some cash out. Let me just be a partner in your house.
But I saw it on social media. It has to be correct.
Yeah.
Betty wrote in just about buying homes and such. She says, my favorite line is, buy land. They're not making it anymore.
Yeah, amen to that.
Angelica says, for Shelby, I was wondering about this new policy about the buyer's agent not getting commission on close of escrow, but having to agree on a payment with their client. It's all very confusing. And since my husband and I purchase rentals here and there, when we find a good deal, I'd like to know what this means for the agent that we use.
All right. So this is a major topic in real estate right now. The National Association of Realtors just paid out an enormous lawsuit, $413 million, I believe.
Wow.
And it's really going to change the dynamic of how real estate is bought and sold. Now, what this lawsuit was if those of you guys have sold a home, it's kind of standard where the agent would say, okay, we're going to list your house and we're going to pay 3% to the buyer's agent. So they bring the buyers to us. We're going to advertise the commission on the MLS. So the seller is going to pay 3% to the buyer's agent. And then the listing agent standard would say, okay, well, then I'll list it for 3%. The seller would just say, okay, well, I guess this is how it's done. I have to pay 6%. It wasn't negotiated. They just thought, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not what it is. So they ended up settling this massive lawsuit saying, look, you can't advertise commissions anymore on MLS. And now the buyer may be subject to pay their buyer's agent, which that's not how it works right now. Right now, it's the seller's going to pay the buyer's agent and they're going to pay the listing agent when they sell their house. So obviously the administration and everybody, they're trying to encourage people to want to sell. And they're like, look, this is not fair. The seller's having to pay 6%. So now they're proposing, well, it's not proposed. It just got finalized. So in July, the buyers will have to choose, do I pay my buyer's agent?
Jeez.
They have to pay out of pocket now.
Whoa.
Okay? Now, the listing agent and the seller, they just have to disclose, like, okay, well, what are we offering? What do we agree on? So this is a great chance for a homeowner to negotiate with the agent. But again, that's why I offer those credits for people that are buying a brand new home. It's like, look, you already found your home. People call me a lot of the time that are like, hey, I want to buy my house off my landlord. I'm like, I'll guide you through the whole thing. You don't need to pay me. You already know what house you're buying. That sounds insane. Like, I'll help you through this. You don't need to pay me anything. So I think that that's the way that the game is going to change. And that's what I've always felt. Some people say, oh, no, you shouldn't do both. You shouldn't do real estate and mortgage. You should focus on one. No, the best thing for the consumer is for me to help guide them through both sides of the deal. And they can save money by doing that. So why would they not call me and have me help them?
That's incredible.
And, so that's a major change.
Phone number is 888-989-9811. Hi, Glenn. Go ahead.
Actually, we're interested in getting a HELOC, and we've gone through a couple of people, and the one that actually got back to us with all the information is telling us that we need to pay off our car with the money for the HELOC, so we have to take out more than we're wanting to take out because they want us to pay off the car to reduce our debt-to-income ratio. Now, is there any truth to this? Because I don't see using money for my house to buy a car.
Yeah. And, I coach people through this a lot because it doesn't make sense financially to pay off the car because you're taking a 5-year car note and you're spanning it over a 30-year period. So you're literally, of course, you're going to save money by doing that. You're basically going on a 30-year car loan, which you're not going to keep the car for 30 years. So you're going to be paying on a car for 30 years. Now, for some people, if your monthly obligations are that high, you don't really have a choice. And you're like, you know what? I need to save money monthly any way possible. On this home equity line of credit, there is a debt to income ratio that you have to qualify. And what that means is it's all of your debt divided by your income. If your debt to income ratio is too high, then you won't qualify for the HELOC at all. So they're saying the only way for you to qualify is by paying off this car. But it's also, important for them to go over those, the repercussions of adding your car to a 30-year loan.
Seems like every time you're here, you have something new to offer. What is this new FHA loan product that you are rolling out, which I understand is fairly exclusive to you guys?
Yeah, it is. So I actually worked with Fannie Mae to get this loan product approved. I really shed some light on people's utilities because, again, like your debt to income ratio that we're talking about, it doesn't even include your utility payment because your utilities don't report on your credit. So I went to Fannie Mae and I said, hey, are you aware of what's going on with California's utility prices? Because somebody that's in, Michigan might be paying 8 cents for their electricity, and we're qualifying them for a loan the same as somebody in California that's paying 45 cents for their utility. So the qualification should be different. So they agreed and they said, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What Fannie Mae wants to do is they want to protect their assets that they're lending on, right? They're the ones buying these mortgages. So they said, you know what? We think it is very important for us to consider the monthly utility and provide a solution. So we have a new FHA loan product, has the exact same guidelines, the exact same interest rates that are given on a regular FHA mortgage. But now if you're buying a home, you can add the cost of solar in this loan and reduce your monthly expenses by adding solar. So it costs you no money out of pocket for the solar. There's no more money that you have to, put down on the home, and you can add up to 20% for solar for a new roof. So if you're looking at a home that needs a new roof, now you can finance in the roof, the entire solar, and we break down the payment and say, okay, your solar would have been, or your electricity bill would have been $400 per month, and now it's $150. So now we're including that into the ratios and saying, hey, you're going to save $300 per month by going this route. Or you can add a brand new roof and the solar, and you're still going to save $150 a month. So amazing loan product, including solar, getting a handle on your utility bill, and protecting yourself from all these rate hikes. You have you have zero protection. It just goes up and up and up and up and up forever. It's wild.
Like seemingly everything these days.
It's like having an adjustable rate on your mortgage and having zero control.
Always contact Shelby first. He's on Instagram. It's Shelby Elias, Elias. You can get him online at financewithshelby.com. He's at United Wholesale Lending, and we always love having him here. Anything we forgot?
No, that's it. Follow me on Instagram. I put up a ton of great content.
He
You
really
can
does.
DM me on there.
Yeah.
And also remember that literally I am calling back every single lead that comes in. So if you go to Finance with Shelby, financewithshelby.com, go on there, fill out the link. I will personally call you and go over the game plan.
It might take a few minutes, but he will call you.
Are people shocked? Is this really Shelby?
Yeah.
Every call, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's real." I'm like, "What? People have been telling you for years that I'm the one that answers. I'm gonna call you."